Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Now, just think about this for a second, okay? The federal government, which has Tomahawk cruise missiles and Apache, Blackhawk, Kiowa, and Lakota helicopters, and used the name Geronimo in the attack that killed Osama bin Laden, the federal government officially objects to the name Washington Redskins? Really? Really? Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America on a Monday, last Monday of 2014. Good morning. Good morning. Kate Smith, and God bless America. I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you. Service is the key word. Along with some of our great advertisers, including Lease Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them. Locally owned and ready to serve you. Western Waste Services, 734-6969. And now, without further ado, here she is, and had a wonderful Christmas, she says. So did we. Good morning, Gina Jameson.
Well, good morning, sunshine, and it's snowing.
Yeah, it is here, too. And, I got to go back, and I'm going to give Michael a little bit of razz in just a moment. But remember all the weather forecasters, both hither and yon, that said 0% chance of a white Christmas?
They were wrong.
Oh, boy.
I know.
Yeah. That 0% chance almost caused Deanne and I not to get home on Christmas Eve. That 0% chance of snow caused us to be snowed in on Christmas and couldn't even get out our back door. That's that 0% chance.
Yes. Don't you love that 0% chance when it's so totally wrong?
I understand that prognosticating the weather is a tough deal, but, I got to give them credit. They're right most of the time, but in this case, what was supposed to be a brown Christmas sure looked like a white Bing Crosby Christmas to me.
Hey, I went skiing.
I bet you, in your yard.
I did.
Yes, I know. Do we have a pledger?
We have Al on for the pledge, and the prognosticator, Mr. Michael Rogers, on for the weather.
All right, here we go. Al, good morning, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, same to you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Always appreciate you, my friend. God's blessings to you.
Zeb, Polly and I'd like to send our condolences to the Carl Clark family and all the relations, because we've lost another lunch buncher.
I'm going to be talking about that in a few minutes, Al. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And cut the snow off. I've shoveled almost 10 inches this last 4 days. I'm tired of it.
Well, yeah, but your neighbor keeps throwing it back. That's why it was 10 inches.
So's the doggone highway department. Just get it dug out, and here he comes.
I hear that song. Al, thank you so much. God bless you. Ladies and gentlemen, time for the weather, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-6945. And whatever you need to make your house a home, Kyle and Whitney Cheney and their team will exactly do that. Make your house a home. Beautiful carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor, everything at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Look for the blue door at 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Here now, Mr. Snow. Good morning.
I blew it. It's your fault.
Why?
Bill.
Why?
I don't know. I just need somebody to blame.
Oh, okay.
I just need somebody to blame. What the heck? The worst thing in the world that could happen to a weather person is when he gives you a busted forecast. But because you listen to me and you put up with me for over, we're going on 7 years now, 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be the first to tell you I blew it. I won't hesitate. I blew it. I own it. The problem is, not only did you have problems in the snow, but so did I. You know what it's like trying to dig yourself out of snow at the Oasis truck stop in a four-wheel vehicle? I could see if I was in a tractor trailer. But I'm stuck in the snow. And to make matters worse, I knew it was going to happen. I'm sitting there going like, this front's going to come through, and like it always does in the Magic Valley, it stalls and dumps. And it did exactly that. Morning, everybody. I can sit up here and give you all of this, reason that, and yours truly blew it. But this much I can tell you right now, we're not blowing this one because you're going to be screaming at me for at least the next 72 hours because it's going to get cold. That's your weather story for this week. Right now you got snow. You're going to get a break from the snow. You're going to pick up some more snow toward the end of the week. But your weather story is going to be cold. If I were you, start running that hot water through them pipes. Put a sweater on. Put some gloves on. You might want to get up about 2 minutes early to kind of start the car and let it run. About 48 hours into the cold, you're going to get mad wondering when's it going to stop. Right now, you've got it all week long. How cold? I'll tell it to you this way. You look at the single digits for the overnight low. There you have it. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. MichaelRogersWeather.com. Brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Thank you very much. Oh, my. We've got to go right along here. I want to also remind you about our friends at Daryl's Cleaners. Do not forget that probably you had the family over on Christmas Day, and they spilled gravy all over your tablecloth, and they got cranberry sauce stains. Oh, my! What are you going to do? Take it right to Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley, and they can help. Absolutely. You stop into the best. They are the best. Daryl's Cleaners. Kevin and Cindy, the whole crew serving you. 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see them today. Also, real fast, I want to remind you about SafeLink Internet. Write this number down, 677-8000, 677-8000. No contracts, no credit checks, unlimited data. And call and get with the program. Tell them Zeb sent you. I swear by our friends at SafeLink Internet. They are the best. Idaho's #1 choice for wireless internet. SafeLink, 677-8000. This is not going to be easy for me to say this morning, but it needs to be said, and Al alluded to it just a few moments ago. I get very, very close to our listeners. They are my friends. And very, very close to our lunch bunchers. They are my dear friends. Carl Clark passed away this past week. He was one of the original lunch bunchers and was always so helpful with his lovely wife, Joanne, in helping us put the lunch bunch on and doing little things that needed to be done and never asked for a thank you. And I just absolutely appreciated the fact that he and I might have a difference of opinion on certain subjects, and we could sit and harangue back and forth with each other, and but we were always friendly about it. He was my friend, and he had the kindest heart of anybody I knew. As a matter of fact, you could really define him as a very gentle man. Carl Clark, I'm saying this with tears in my eyes because I'm certainly going to miss him. And God's blessings to the Clark family. And Carl, I know you're listening up there in heaven this morning. God bless you. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget our friends, too, at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. They're open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. And I want to tell you, with this cold weather coming on this week, you heard Michael just a moment ago, it is going to get cold. You'd better make sure that you have replaced those old, dirty air filters for your furnace, and you got some new ones, some good ones, the best ones at Ramsey Heating and Electric. They're going to save you money. They're going to make your furnace run more efficiently. What more could you ask for? When you tippy-toe across the floor to turn up the thermostat, it'll do it. It'll work. You better believe it. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. And this is a fitting time, too, to say thanks to Keith. Wow. That Christmas program we had last week on Thursday, I always enjoy putting that Christmas show on. I never tired of that. Never tire of that. And we had some amazing people stop in. Deanna, of course, bent over backwards to just absolutely make everybody feel welcome. Food galore. Oh, was the food good. And I just want to thank everybody for coming, or the calls. It was fantastic. And Keith with his singing, well, he's just not replaceable. That's all there is to it. Don't forget Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Oh, Sean and Mandy, the whole crew, they've got everything to keep warm. Oh, take a look at the great selection of all the coats and the vests and the gloves and the boots and everything else. Get over there. Don't let that cold weather come get you. Be ready for it at Valleywide Home and Ranch. You better believe it. They've got everything for your livestock, too. All your feed needs, all your equipment needs, everything at Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You stop in and see those good folks today. Okay? Got you covered. All right, give us a call on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Christmas comes way in too short a time. I mean, man, I love Christmas. The day goes by lightning, and then poof, it's all over. And the spirit of Christmas, I hope, will live on in your hearts 365 days a year. It was a great Christmas. We talked to a lot of neat people, had a chance to visit with a lot of neat people, and I extend the real meaning of Christmas to each and every one of you, and like I said, I hope it continues on. Right now, we're looking at this week, the end of 2014, and the beginning of 2015. And Gina and I talked it over, and we're going to have a program today and tomorrow, but we're going to be taking off on Wednesday and Thursday. I want her to have some time with her family, and quite frankly, I want to spend some time with my family. And but we've got a lot of things to talk about between today and tomorrow on this show. But one thing, caller, I'm coming, don't go away. One thing I want to make emphatically clear to every listener out there right now on this program: thank you. Thank you for making this the number one show listened to in this time slot. I appreciate it so much, and we're going to keep plugging away in next year's 2015. Thank you so much. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, and thank you for doing what you do.
I appreciate that, Doug. Thank you.
On this deal with Fox and Dish, isn't Fox News and Fox Sports owned by the same company?
I don't know about Fox Sports. I really don't know if it's a subsidiary or a division of. Doug, I can't tell you that, but I do know this. Tomorrow on the program at 9:30, we're going to have a person that is heavily involved in this mess right now of trying to get Fox News and Dish Network back together on the same page, and we're going to be talking about this mess. I personally am so outraged as to what's happened, taking that news channel off, and the business channel also, and replacing it with nothing, virtually nothing, while I paid a full premium price for that network to be inclusive on the Dish Network, and I'm outraged that I spent money for something I'm not getting.
Me too. I am, and I've talked to him. But I do think Fox Sports and Fox News are under the same parent company.
It could be, but it has not affected Fox Sports because they were on with their entirety yesterday with their football games.
Could you imagine, had they pulled Fox Sports along with Fox News, what outrage they'd have?
Well, yeah, there's no question about it, and unfortunately, and I mean this, I love sports. You'll never find a bigger sportsman than me. I mean, when it comes to NFL and all the others. But that just shows sometimes the weakness of our priorities, that we put sports above the news and everything else. I am outraged, and I mean this, that my news gathering data has been limited now to MSNBC, which is absolutely trivial, and bogus CNN. I have watched diligently, Doug, the last 2 days, CNN and MSNBC, and I can see why they're way down the totem pole for people that are viewers.
Yes. Have you looked at Newsmax?
A little. And I do like Newsmax. I subscribe to their magazine. I get it monthly, and I think that the publishers, the editors, the writers from Newsmax are excellent, as is their newscast.
Yeah, it beats CNN and MSNBC down.
It does.
Giving you information.
Yep. But I'm just I've got a lot of animosity against what happened here. I want to hear what you found out, but when I called both Fox News Network and also Dish, I got the runaround like a dog chasing a rabbit. What about you?
I got two stories. They're pointing the fingers at each other.
Yeah.
And that's what I got. So I'm switching. I'm moving. I shouldn't tell this company, but it's Costco's down there, and they're switching you over. If you're a Costco member, you get $10 off a month, every month, plus you get a $300 Costco gift card.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm going to switch yet because I don't like the other programming per se. But I will tell you this, if it lasts another week of me wasting my money, I'm going to demand, and I said this earlier last week, and if you listen, you know I'm telling the truth. I said there should be a Citizens Alliance group lawsuit against both of them for acting in a childish, frivolous, non-business approach to this problem.
Exactly, and I talked to Dish about, say, hey, well, I'm paying for a service and you're not providing it.
Well, it's just, Doug, I hate to interrupt you, but this is what happened. Another circumstance this morning. We pay for a service. I pay the Times News to deliver my paper, okay? I pay to have a circulation of that paper delivered to my box, and it wasn't again this morning. Well, we have carrier problems. Doug, that is not my problem. It's not your problem. It's not anybody's problem. That's the Times News circulation department problem. If they're having trouble with their carriers, they better fix it because we paid for that service.
Exactly, and I've talked to Times News too. I went around with them, and I told them, I said, it's a good thing that you are the only paper in this area, because had you had some halfway decent competition, you'd be out of business.
Yeah, and
nobody can run a business like that.
Do you know what? One of the girls in the, I called the circulation department this morning, and I said, where's my paper? I don't know, Mr. Bell. And I said, well, find out. Well, no. Here, let me give you the carrier, let me give you the carrier's number. And I said, wait a minute. That is not my job. It is not my duty to call them personally and find out where my paper is. That is the Times News and your job. Why do we have to do their business?
They're the only rag in town, and that's the only way. That's the only reason they're still in business.
I agree.
I also told them on their point, where they have that Alexander. I says, he's very, very left, and and all he does is repeat the Democrat talking points. I says, what you ought to do, and I says, I'd love to see it, is a counterpoint, a conservative talking about the same subject.
Absolutely.
On the same page, and let us make up our mind.
I would go head-to-head with him any time on any issue. Thank you, Doug. I got to run. Thanks, buddy.
On a lighter note, though, have you noticed it's about, 363 days till Christmas, and some people have their lights up already?
Thanks, Doug. God bless you. I like that. Hey, Barry Equipment and Rental, and I want to tell you, everybody, listen, this is really important because there's going to be a lot of deals made on equipment this week up until the 31st for the 179 deductions. Now, if you're not aware of what that is, in this year, the tax year 2014, there is a good business decision for many to finance equipment immediately before the December 31st cutoff on what they call the 179 qualified financing programs. Save you a lot of money. Call Barry Equipment and Rental and check out this today. Call Eli or Nick or anybody at any of the locations for Barry Equipment and Rental in Jerome, Twin Falls, and at 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. There definitely is a way for you to save a lot of money and get the equipment to get the job done right. Barry Equipment and Rental. Also, real quick, I want to remind you about Denny's Restaurant. Oh, baby, what a great place to eat. And they wished everybody a very Merry Christmas, and now they wish to you and your family a very Happy New Year. They're located at 611 Overland in Burley, and they are the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, Thomas and Terry, the whole crew. And, of course, don't forget, you can stop in for breakfast, lunch, and or dinner. All the time, anytime, in a new location on Pole Line in Twin Falls. And that's, of course, Denny's Restaurant, serving you. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd like to hear from you. I want to talk a little bit. Oh, by the way, Deanne just handed me this note. And I want to be sure and get this in. Happy birthday today to Gene Stelly. Gene, if you're listening, we wish you the very, very happiest of birthdays and God's blessings to you. As we finish 2014 and head into 2015, happy birthday, Gene Stelly. There you go. The NFL playoffs. Now, I am a nut when it comes to football and the NFL, etc. Well, there were some outstanding games on this weekend. But there's also a thug attitude in the NFL. T-H-U-G, thug attitude. And one of the players, actually two of the players, Rioli and Sue, S-U-H, of the Detroit Lions, I personally would like to see both of those players banned from the NFL. I'm serious. The center on the offensive line of Detroit, and this happened over a week ago. It didn't happen against my team, Green Bay. Really, just absolutely a dirty player. I mean, that's the only way you can say it. A dirty player. And he was suspended for the game yesterday against Green Bay. But the dirtiest of players, absolutely the dirtiest player I've seen in a long time in the pros, or for that matter even college, is Ndamukong Suh, the defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions. Make no bones about it, I'm prejudiced when I say this. Green Bay Packer quarterback Aaron Rodgers re-injured his leg yesterday and just played on sheer guts to finish the game. Got knocked down by Suh, and the cameras show exactly and explicitly that Ndamukong Suh backed up when he got up off the ground, didn't think the officials were watching him and the cameras, and he backed up and stomped right on Aaron Rodgers' injured leg while he's laying on the ground. There was no reason for this kind of play. And kids see this kind of thing, and they emulate their heroes, unfortunately, and a lot of people look at Ndamukong Suh as a hero. He's a punk, he's a thug, and he ought to be suspended from the NFL. That kind of play, and don't give me this garbage about, well, they all do it. No, they don't all do it. And I'm just saying that now is a great time for a little frontier justice next week when the Cowboys play the Lions. And maybe on an end sweep towards Mr. Ndamukong Suh, they can do a little chin music on Mr. Sue, if you get my drift. We're going to have a little bit of time right now for our friends at the Capitol Press, and brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capitol Press, the West Ag Weekly. Opportunities for U.S. dairy exports to South Korea center mainly on cheese and butter, followed by value-added ingredients such as whey proteins and lactose for food. With a U.S.-South Korea free trade agreement in place, an increasing appetite for Western cuisine, and an increasingly uncompetitive domestic industry, U.S. dairy exports to South Korea will continue to grow in coming years, the country representative for the U.S. Dairy Export Council says. That would be true especially for cheese, where consumption is increasing 10% annually. But U.S. production of cheese and butter must be adjusted to local tastes, as products contain more sodium than the level to which South Koreans are accustomed. This is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capitol Press, and CapitolPress.com.
Brought to you by Pacific Steel and Recycling. These are wonderful, wonderful people helping those in need. And still, all the way till the end of this month of December, they're saying at Pacific Steel and Recycling to bring in, of course, canned goods or non-perishable food items, and you will receive $10 more per ton for scrap iron and 5-cent bonus on aluminum. I'm telling you, we need more people like the wonderful folks at Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley. The number to call, 678-2321. Again, 678-2321. Pacific Steel and Recycling, helping those in need. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Calls would be appreciated. And right now, I forgot to tell you about the huge, that means really big, after Christmas sale going on at Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. I talked to Bruce the other day. Holy buckets, you can save an extra 20% off TV bases and electric fireplaces. And they've got Samsung Blu-ray home theater systems with wireless rear speakers, just $299. $299? Holy cow, you better get in there. Check it out today. And other great after Christmas sale buys at Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. You stop in and see them today. All right, give me a jingle. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I go back in time. I regress a little bit. And as you know, I am, and I make no apologies, a very devout Green Bay Packer fan. Grew up back in that country. I know the players from the past. And Jerry Kramer, All-Pro and in the Hall of Fame, guard for the Packers, has been on my program in the past, and I'm going to try to get a hold of him again prior to the Super Bowl. But I never will forget the story, and everybody knew about it at the time, but he is excellent at telling the story, about when the Packers played the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl years and years and years ago. They had a player called Freddie, and he called himself by nickname the Hammer Williamson. And he had made, during the course of the season, a lot of guys go to the sidelines with crossed eyes because it was his trademark in trade to go up and try to smash helmets with his arm and forearm and fist, and really knocked a lot of guys out. Well, pretty soon the word got around that somebody had better take care of Freddie the Hammer Williamson. And when Jerry was on my program one time, he talked about this, that they all got together before the Super Bowl on the Green Bay sideline, and Freddie Williamson had made comments to the news media prior to that Super Bowl about how many Green Bay Packer receivers he was going to take out with the hammer. And I never will forget a pass play downfield, and all of a sudden, the guy laying on the floor was wearing the red, gold, and white of the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was Freddie the Hammer Williamson. And they took him out of the game, and he did not return for the rest of that Super Bowl game. So, what I'm getting at is frontier justice. You keep trying to hurt somebody, And you keep bragging about it, and you're going to get yours. And in this case, it's Ndamukong Suh for the Detroit Lions. One of the dirtiest players I've ever seen. He's hurt a lot of guys since he turned pro, and he needs to get his. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, Nick and the rest of the crew, excuse me, got a little bit of a cold this morning, Nick Greenwell and all of his staff. Wow, they are good. That's what they ought to put on their sign out there. Wow, we are good. Well, they are. They can really help you get back to feeling and being you. Absolutely. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Number to call for an appointment, 678-1191. 678-1191. You give them a call today. The whole staff knows everything about exercises and how you get back in shape. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Your turn, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. Why is it, and I know I'm treading on some thin ice, if you will, when I mention this, but it needs to be said, and I won't shy away from it. Rush Limbaugh said something the other day, and he's right. You know, he was on his program and he denounced the idea of a new James Bond movie coming out and featuring James Bond as a black man. And he said, wait a minute, no, that's not right. The creator of the James Bond books was Ian Fleming. He was white and Scottish. And basically the book took on the personality and character of Ian Fleming himself, and that's who James Bond is. Why is it, and answer this question, don't be a coward about this, why do we now have to have a complete change of race to satisfy the racists? I don't care if it's black Santa Clauses. I don't care if it's clamoring that all front offices, whether it's in the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever, are all black leadership, or even down to the fact of black Jesus in churches. Why do we have to have everything all of a sudden turn away and scoff at whites in our system? Close to 90%, I'll stand behind these figures, close to 90% of the NBA players are black, with many, many black coaches and assistant coaches. I would venture to say, I do not know the exact percentages, but I'm just saying this off of watching their rosters and looking at their rosters, that 80% or stronger of the NFL is black, with many, many, many black coaches. But they want more. We already have now President Obama, Attorney General Holder. Why is it now that it's almost criminal to celebrate being a Caucasian? Think about that. And answer the question as to why do we have to replace personalities, whether in the movies or whether in reality, with now black heritage. Why? Give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927. Don't shy from this. I'm not going to. You shouldn't either. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the Square in Rupert. Oh, my. Breakfast, lunch, or supper. You better believe it. Open Monday through Friday, 6 to 6. Saturdays and Sundays, 6 to 2. What a bakery over there. Oh, wow. Cookie bars, homemade bread, wedding cakes, cinnamon rolls, scones. Oh, the plates aren't big enough. Oh, my goodness, it's delicious. Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street on the Square in Rupert. Wonderful people. Come on. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I really would like to hear some of your thoughts on this. Racism, I think today is worse than ever before, except going back into the 60s like Selma, Alabama, etc. But now there seems to be this liberal mindset that we have to purge and get rid of and denounce and make less of whites and Caucasians. We've got to get rid of them. We've got to replace them. Why? Don't forget your Scows CarQuest centers. Hey, man, I'll tell you what, they've got everything over there. I'm telling you, if you haven't checked your windshield wipers with all the snow and the ice tearing them up and everything, they've got the Trico Neoform wiper blades. Oh, boy, you can save money. And they've got the Chevron Techron fuel system cleaner. You check out all these items and literally everything you need for your automotive needs. Every detail matters at Scows CarQuest, where you can find all your automotive replacement products, accessories, and supplies for virtually all vehicles. Yep, every detail matters. They've got locations at 518 Overland and Burley, 323 East 8th and Highway 25 in Rupert, and exit 211 I-84 for their big truck depot. You better believe it's Scows CarQuest and excellence. Now that is a winning team. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning.
Yes, ma'am.
I think that this equality thing, especially with James Bond, is maybe out of control because we've all grown up with James Bond being who he is and whatever he is. Why doesn't some clever author come up with a real outstanding role model that is a black person?
Well, let me go back to a movie that comes to mind, and it was an offshoot of a television series back in the late 60s and early 70s, How the West Was Won with Robert Conrad. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm afraid so.
All right, and then when the movie came out, who was the star of the movie?
I can't even remember because my old brain isn't that.
Will Smith. Will Smith, a black man. And I guess my point is, Chris, we hear so much about the denigration of Caucasians and whites, and we hear how we're so unfair and it's not equal. Chris, when you look at sports in general, you're seeing mostly blacks on the playing field or the court. And now they want more as far as they're demanding that when there's a hiring of a coach or front office people, that they get precedence over anyone else. My point is, let's hire the people that can get the job done the best.
And that's really too bad because, see, I think that's come out of the new change in the American politic. We have to make sure that we don't look like we discriminate. So we force roles down the people's throats. When in the end, the sports people ought to be able to change what they do and that sort of thing. Leave that alone. But I think that when we've got somebody like James Bond that every kid in America has grown up on, why do we want to? Maybe the black authors need to create somebody that they can make a James Bond.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that idea at all. But it's almost like today, Chris, and for those out there in the audience that are offended by this, that's your problem, not mine. It's almost today like they're covering up or taking away from a society the white or the Caucasian actor or the basketball coach or the players. I mean, come on, look at the NBA, for heaven's sakes, Chris. It's like I said, 90% are better black, and they still want more.
Well, the thing about it is that how do you create equality? By raising people up who really want to compete and do something not because of their race, but because of their ability.
I agree.
You've got to get away from this because I don't know how come this is just such a big deal. And, my husband is Japanese, And he competes right along with everybody else. He doesn't expect a hold car, somebody giving him an advantage just because they want to be, fair. So there's plenty of races in our country that should be able to show their best stuff and be congratulated for it.
I agree.
Rather than having to have the government interfere.
Amen. Well stated, my dear friend. Thank you, and Happy New Year, Chris. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Caller, good morning. You're on the air. Oh, they're backing up. Oh, my goodness sakes. Look out. Call back, please. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There's another angle on this story. And like I said, if some people are offended and say, how dare he talk about this? Well, that's fine. I'm going to, because it is the truth. We're going to get into that other angle in just a moment, because right now it's time for the weather, brought to you by Mad River Laser. My goodness sakes, do they do a wonderful job. They can do all the engraving on mugs and T-shirts and sweatshirts and plaques and ornaments, everything. As a matter of fact, I've got to get some more coffee mugs. Zeb at the ranch. Oh, Nicole does a wonderful job. Absolutely. Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. She is the best. Now, caller, don't you go away. I'll be right with you as soon as we have this weather forecast from Michael Rogers. Go.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. I'm going to make this real simple because it's about that time where usually 2 times a year we get this cold air coming down from Canada, and it gets kind of cold. Well, you're in it, and you're going to be getting quite a bit of it for at least the remainder of this week. And we're talking cold, okay? We're talking about single digits for the overnight low. Yeah, you got some snow coming towards the later portion of the week. But other than that, welcome to almost January and cold weather in the Magic Valley of South Central Idaho. So just put a sweater on, throw some gloves on, run your hot water through your pipes, and you'll get through this. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you've got.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Brought to you by Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert. Wonderful, wonderful folks at Mad River Laser. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, just a little bit on the same level as your James Bond. I went to the movies this last weekend, and they got Little Orphan Annie as a black girl now.
Oh, boy.
So that movie's already out, showing it's coming.
Let me ask you a quick question here, sir. I don't mind if they want to have blacks represent various characters that have been known to be white characters. I guess that's fine. But what I am getting sick and tired of is the dismissal of whites, Caucasians, and saying, well, we're going to replace this and we're going to replace this. It's almost like they're trying to put whites and Caucasians into a minuscule or obliterated circumstance to where they mean nothing anymore. And that offends me.
Yep, I agree with you. It's already happening, I'm the one that's called you before and said you're the most discriminated man in your own country because of the mosques and the Hispanic Heritage Centers and the Black Miss America. And now there's a blacksonlydating.com.
Yeah. I totally appreciate your call and your viewpoint as always, sir. And may I wish to you and yours a very happy New Year. Thank you so much.
You too.
Thank you. I think we had another call coming in. Good morning. You're on the air.
No other call.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I heard a ding, and then I thought it was a call. I will say this, and again, I'm opening myself up for a lot of problems, but that's okay. I was listening to a debate the other day regarding 2 blacks, one that sides with the likes of Al Sharpton and one that sides with the likes of Dr. Ben Carson. And there was no comparison in the thought process. The one black that was absolutely dissing other blacks for being successful and saying that, they just left the ghetto and they get this and now they've got a fancy car and they've got this. And the other black man was looking at this guy, shaking his head, saying, wait a minute. Nobody is holding you down. If you want to show some effort, show some work ethic, and show some achieving, go out and earn it. That's the problem with the black community right now. They're listening to the likes of Al Sharpton. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Happy New Year, Zeb, and amen and hallelujah to what you just said. What the blacks are not listening to is they should all be watching the movie or the TV show Undercover Boss, which I think is the best one in the country, because you see these white CEOs from baseball managers to Burger King, so to speak, and they are picking out blacks, all different kinds of people who are of color who have done excellent jobs serving that company, and then they are being rewarded for what they do, not for their color. That's not being shown anywhere.
Gary, I am so upset at the race relations in this country today that don't have to be the way they are. And I honestly am going to point the finger at Obama for the last 6 years, Eric Holder for the last 6 years, for even allowing Al Sharpton to get in the Gardener's Gate at the White House. They should have never let him in the Oval Office. That man thrives on dissension, he thrives on hate, and he thrives on discord. And that's why we're in the shape we're in today.
Oh, absolutely. They're up there in their own little tower, and they absolutely have no clue what you and I are talking about, or don't care.
I think it's the don't care what we're talking about, but here's the situation of the black athletes that I know, the blacks that are involved in politics, the blacks that are involved in business, and I know many of them across the United States. They have an attitude of colorblindness, which we all need to have. They wanted to succeed. They wanted to put their best foot forward. They wanted to use the talent that God gave them, just like everybody else, to reach up, pull themselves up the ladder, and be successful. What's color about that?
You got it right on. And I don't know what it's going to take to change it.
I don't either, Gary, but it's frustrating. God bless you, man, and Happy New Year to you. Thank you very much. I'm so sick and tired of hearing these people get on these networks. Oh, we can't do this, and then we shall overcome. I'm fed up with it. Everybody should sit down, analyze their own situation, and say, no, listen, I can do what I want to do in this great country if I do the following, and I get the following education. There's not one single person of any ethnicity that cannot achieve their goals. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, my friend.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I want to go back to Bill Cosby. He was a speaker at the commencement of a black college. Well, that's been several years ago on that. And when he got up there, he basically said, he said, you guys have the ability, you guys have the knowledge, you have the schooling to go forward. It's nobody else's fault but your own if you don't succeed.
That's right.
He says it doesn't have anything to do with race, has nothing to do with color, has nothing to do with anything else. You have the abilities, you have the skills, you have been taught to move forward. Don't blame them if you fail.
Why is it that we always look for an excuse if we stub our toe and don't achieve something that we want to achieve? Why do we have to blame somebody else? It's our own fault. It's our own bearing on how hard we try. I don't care if you're white, if you're black, if you're purple. I don't care what color you are. It's your own volition to be attuned to the skills that God gave you and go work for it.
Well, that's exactly, and I'm going to take it back to the parents, okay? Your kids hear you say, using excuses as to why this happened, as to why this happened, as to why this happened. Quit giving excuses and just do it.
I agree. And, you'll hear these sorry and absolutely pathetic excuses from Al Sharpton and basically mollycoddling all the people that want to stand outside, wasting time, looting and burning and threatening people. My goodness, that's going to change a lot for the good. And for what purpose? Let's get together and make sure that everybody pulls on the same end of the rope. This is so stupid what's going on in this country.
Well, the thing is I don't understand why people listen to him. The main thing is the whole reason Al Sharpton is out there is for the money. He can make a whole bunch of money. He has made a whole bunch of money off of doing just exactly this. He doesn't care who gets killed. He doesn't care who gets hurt. He really doesn't care. All he wants is the money.
Absolutely.
The easiest way he can do it without having to do anything decent with his life.
I couldn't agree more. Very well stated. Kilt, man, I got to do a commercial. God bless you, man. Thanks so much. Happy New Year.
Talk to you later.
Thank you. I'm just sick of the excuses. I went to college with a lot of different ethnicities, a lot of different races. And I can't think of one that failed. I can't think of any of them that didn't put their best foot forward, whether it was on the athletic court or field or in business. I know a lot of them that are really, really highly successful because they put their effort into achievement. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Going to be cold this week. You better check out the batteries. Go in and have your battery checked, and then you go, oh my goodness, I don't think it's going to last in this cold spell. Well, they've got the best batteries right there for you at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The best in traction tires. Oh my, the snow kind of snuck up on you, didn't it? And they've got the best in tire chains. You stop in and see them today. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, the best in brake service. All of this and more at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Okay, we got to take a break for a couple of minutes, and coming up next hour, we have Frosty Woldridge from Gold in Colorado, and then at 9:30, we're going to have Senator Dean Cameron talk about the upcoming legislative session and also some of the, funny and almost to the point of goofy remarks made by the Times News about the legislature. We'll talk to him about that in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. Oh my, welcome back. I miss the Christmas music. I really do. Gina had a great repertoire of Christmas songs. Boy, now that's quick. How did you do that so doggone fast, lady?
Power of the finger.
Oh my goodness, you're good. I've said to everybody I know and have met, I said that girl is a wizard when it comes to running the board. You're good. Thank you. Hey, Zebeth Ranch, and we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. Also, some of our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always the Georgia struggle. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at Georgia struggle.
Locally owned and operated. That is the key. They're all over the valley taking care of you. Kelly and the crew, Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. The number to call, 734-6969. I mean, getting rid of your garbage is not a problem. Just call Western Waste Services. Again, locally owned and operated and serving you and all of Magic Valley. Western Waste Services, you call them and get on the route service today. Wonderful people at Western Waste. Oh, my goodness, we're going to have Frosty on the air here momentarily, but I also want to remind you about our dear, dear friend, and he is Joel Heward, manager of Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Oh, they absolutely serve each and every family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. And believe me, they have flexible hours so that they will pay the most attention to what your needs are. Please call them, 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Joel Heward and the staff serving you. Wonderful people. I want to remind you again that our weather every day on the show when we started off is brought to you by some really good folks, Kyle and Whitney Cheney at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Anything you need to make your house a home, carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor needs, newly refurbished furniture, look for the blue door at Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Right now, let's go to Colorado, like old Festus used to say on Gunsmoke. And my good buddy, here he is, Frosty Wildridge. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb, and Happy New Year.
You know, I hope it is. And I don't mean to sound trite when I say I hope it is a Happy New Year. I hope that we can get through some of the mess that's been caused by politicians and some of the mess that's been caused with the likes of Al Sharpton and others. I hope you're right. I hope it is a Happy New Year.
Well, in the end, each of us... in fact, I just wrote a piece, and it'll probably publish tomorrow in newswithviews.com, and it's called Crossing the Bridge into 2015. And while there are tremendous challenges across this country, in the end, you get to live your daily life with excellence, and you get to live your daily life with passion. You get to live your daily life as you see fit, and nobody can take that away. I really want everyone to understand that. Zeb and I deal with some incredibly difficult subjects facing our country, and they are serious beyond comprehension half the time. And at the same time, though, I give these nine ways to live a fantastic 2015 in your own household. And so you do get to live. And then hopefully you do participate in the political process. And of course, I keep sharing with everyone to join capsweb.org and numbersusa.org and certainly fairus.org. Because those are the empowerment websites that give you the ability to help change the course of history. So yeah, let's anguish and discuss everything that we discussed. But each and every one of you, I think you'll get some really fun stuff out of this Crossing the Bridge into 2015. And again, newswithviews.com will be carrying it either today or tomorrow. And I think it's just basic stuff. And yeah, I'm going to live a great 2015 because I always do, even though I have all the other challenges of the immigration and population and environment issues that we face. So yeah, let's do it on an individual basis, and then collectively let's all move into 2015 with high hopes and then actions that make a difference.
You know, and really, you're uplifting, and you just make me feel good to talk to you about this type of thing, Frosty. But here's the bottom line. Everybody has the right and the opportunity and the options to pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, like I said last hour, and utilize every bit of the talent that God gave them, whether it's public speaking, whether it's whatever personality trait they have, and better their situation. It's not up to the government. It's not up to Frosty and Zeb. It's up to themselves to go ahead and say, I can do this, and then go get it done.
And you are correct. And and we do all have a choice, and we all make those choices every day. One of the tragedies of America started in 1964 with Lyndon Baines Johnson as he prepared the Great Society, which instead of being responsible and personally accountable to yourself as a person,
It started handing out the freebies. Women could have as many babies as they wanted and get paid more money for each baby that they birthed. And a bunch of people really took up on that. And, of course, now we have, second, third generation welfare recipients. And unfortunately, those choices have, they're still there, but the choices are so ingrained to partake of the welfare and the free food and the free housing and the Section 8 and literally the free cars and cell phones and everything else that goes with it. So that becomes their choice. And that's a tragedy because I think welfare probably is the worst thing that ever happened to African Americans since slavery, because it puts them into a new kind of slavery where they simply relinquish their choices and simply sit in the cradle of the government, which is you and me, and we pay for them to make choices that do not benefit themselves and certainly don't benefit the country, and there's no contribution, and there's no really life of opportunity and possibilities. So that is a tragedy. I don't know at this point how we can change that because it's so ingrained in literally into millions of African Americans and Hispanic Americans and poor white Americans that are just riding the welfare rolls, and it's not small. It's 48 million are doing that, and those numbers are going up. So.
Yeah, but maybe you and I disagree on this, Frosty. I honestly can't imagine, how anybody can sit back. I don't care if they live in Washington, D.C., I don't care if they live in Pittsburgh, I don't care if they live in Atlanta or if they live in Sacramento. It doesn't make any difference. How they can sit back with all the opportunities that are availing themselves to people of color or ethnicity, how in the world they cannot be successful if they'll get up off their dead butt and go to work?
Well, exactly. And yours and my mindset understand that because I was brought up, I was mowing lawns for 25 cents a lawn by the time I was 10 years old. And then my paper out was $1 an hour and 2 hours every morning, 5 to 7 in the morning. And then in the summer times, I was painting houses. As I got older, I was roofing houses, and that's hard work. And I traded my time for money. I always had a jingle in my pocket. I was a pool cleaner. I was a lifeguard for 75 cents an hour. I washed dishes and did short order cook for 60 cents an hour. And so those opportunities are there. Unfortunately, with a different kind of worldview, a different kind of mindset, and that's what's happened to our ghettos. If you look at the inner cities, and I know how this operates because I taught in the inner city for 2 years, and I got to see, and that's why I probably have a little more wisdom than most people. And most people, how can people just sit on their butts and do nothing all day? Well, I can tell you this. When I was an 18-wheeler truck driver for United Van Lines, I would move some folks out of Detroit. As you all know, I wrote that, now famous article, Tragedy of Detroit, and I showed why Detroit lost 1 million people. Well, I sometimes they would cut the phone off, and I'd have to go next door, and there were 10 kids all watching TV, and I would come back in at 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock to make another phone call in the afternoon, and they're all sitting there watching TV. So it becomes a mindset. It becomes, if you raise some child to sit and watch TV all day, the child only knows how to sit and watch TV. And so that's what's happened, and your anguish is appreciated, and mine is too, but I do understand how it has occurred in this country. It's the same reason why this country is extraordinarily overweight. I just did I saw a piece last night on TED Talks that 65% of Americans are overweight. They're fat. They're obese. 30% of them are grossly obese. How did that happen? Why don't we take action to stop all that? Do something about it. But the fact is, it's going on, and there's 65% of the American public is overweight, and they can't stop it, or they don't stop it, or they don't make a choice to stop it. So they're piling up in diabetes and certainly all these diseases that are causing heart attacks and so forth. So again, it's mindset and it's worldview, and some people get trapped into it, whether they're obese or they're on welfare. There's a consequence, and they're living it.
But here's the deal, and I'd put a lot of money on this. If all of a sudden, and I'll just name the black community in this country, okay? If the black community would turn their TV sets and their iPods and off to everybody except someone like Dr. Ben Carson, somebody that would say, get up out of the ghetto, go to work, do this, do that, stay and be a good parent to your kids, and they'd just listen to that philosophy. All of a sudden, we'd see a transition for the better. But no. They'll listen to the likes of Al Sharpton, that is a race baiter and race hater, and they'll stay in their own little ghetto. They'll still thrive on feeling, oh, woe is me, and they're never going to get anywhere.
Well, and that's the unfortunate reality that I saw as a teacher in the inner city, the ghetto. The inner city and the ghetto is the same thing. And because of that kind of training that, again, Lyndon Baines Johnson started it all, and then the WIC opportunities, the aid to dependent children, all these things that are going on right now have been ingrained for the last 45 years, 50 years. And human beings are no different than anywhere else. They can be trained in excellence, or they can be trained in slovenliness. If a child grows up in the inner city and the house and the father and the mother are just slobs, and the house and the front yard are just slobs and trash. One of the things in my travels around the world, I went through places where you think, well, just pick up the trash around here and it'll look a lot better.
Yep.
But they don't have the wherewithal to pick up the trash because they don't see the trash as trash. And so all of these children that have this kind of orientation can't see that they're watching TV all day. They don't know, understand, or they're not cognitively active to see what their situation is. And so they simply live into it or live through it. And that's why ghettos continue. They're impossible to change. You would take some brilliant mind, educational mind, to say we need to change the entire educational situation in Chicago or Los Angeles or in Detroit. And none have come up with that at this point, because those kids always go back to their parents, and if their parents are literally ghetto parents, then the child simply learns all the ghetto stuff, and then the education goes by the wayside. And that's what's happening to our country.
That's exactly right. And wanting and being given something is a lot different than working and achieving something. And that's the difference in that mindset right now. They want everything given to them instead of working and achieving, and that's the downfall of America as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it truly is, because the more millions you have that are riding the gravy train, and then you have the race baiters, and there's no question. I'm really curious, too, because Jesse Jackson hasn't been as active and out there as that complete intellectual moron named, Al Sharpton. And Sharpton he is really a pathetic human being, because he just lives on contention, and also that Muslim leader Farrakhan. I mean, he's been calling for the breakdown of America for years, and he jumps all over some of these things. And what's so really insane about it is that, last year, 6,039 black-on-black killings in this country, and the black community, and Al Sharpton didn't say a word about it. I just researched that. 6,039 black people, African-American people, killed another African-American in a fit of rage or anger by handguns or stabbing them to death. And Al Sharpton didn't say a word about it. And here is one big 6'4", 290-pound, 18-year-old kid who just robbed the store, and then charges a police officer and attacks him in his car, tries to get his gun, and finally ends up getting killed because he charged the police officer. It becomes a national event for hands up, don't shoot, and everything else. It's a false narrative. It's really astounding. In fact, if somebody like Sharpton, who actually should inspire people like Dr. Martin Luther King, at least inspired people toward a positive outcome. Colin Powell, why aren't the black community leaders following Colin Powell? Why not follow some Ben Carson? I mean, there's some incredible African American leaders out there. Even what's her name? Oprah does incredible work out there. Why wouldn't every African American follow in the footsteps of Oprah Winfrey? And there's plenty more. And yet they go after an Al Sharpton. I don't quite understand that myself. It's quite frustrating on many levels.
And I said this first hour, and again, it might be a bone of contention with some people, but I believe this. Why is it right now, today, more than I think ever before in this country, it's almost criminal to celebrate being Caucasian? And it's a point of diminishment to where people are saying, oh no, we can't have any whites running that football team. Oh no, we can't hire any more white coaches. Why, we've got to hire more black coaches. Oh no, we can't do this. We can't celebrate whites. That's what's happening in this country. The Caucasians are being pushed under the rug.
Well, again, and I've said it many times, we are about to add 100 million third world immigrants. Most of them will be people of color. And they will have, as I said, from 140 countries primarily. Actually, it's a total of 185 countries. But primarily, these will be from failed cultures and failed worldviews and failed ways of life. And they're coming into this country. And as a matter of fact, the European Caucasian American will become a minority by 2042. That is a demographic fact that is not going to change unless we stop this massive immigration loading into our country, which is, as I've said, 100,000 third world immigrants come into this country legally every 30 days. And yes, you're correct. The Caucasian American will become a minority, and it's going to be a very curious situation when we, Caucasian Americans, no longer have the reins, and then you wonder if we're going to have any say when it comes to the racism that will follow, because, I mean, Mexicans are extremely racist. I mean, I've been to Japan. The Japanese are extremely racist. They don't allow anybody else. They don't allow immigration into their country. And so, yeah, we're facing a transformation, or if you could call it, probably a deformation of America from, a white-dominated Caucasian European country that formed the Constitution and so forth into a polyglot society. That's where we're headed. That's literally, in the 10 years that you and I have been speaking about this, we still haven't changed the 1965 Immigration Reform Act. It's still in play, and now it might even go up to 2 million per year of legal immigrants, which is almost 200,000 per month. Coming into this country. So, yeah, the country will change into a different kind of country, and it's not going to be fun for it's not going to be fun for Caucasian Americans, I can tell you that, because racism is biological. If you're a white person in Africa, I guarantee you are literally, racism is against you over there. And if you're in Japan, you're also a white person in a Japanese society, but in China it's the same. In India it's the same. So it's going to be a different kind of ride for our children, and that's why I have always said we need to stop mass immigration, and that's why CAPS Web and Numbers USA and FAIR are the ones that help you do that. And if we don't do that, then we simply become, as I've said, victims of a self-inflicted destiny.
Very well stated, my friend. By the way, end on a lighter note, this is the last program for 2014 that we're going to visit on, and we'll start a brand new year next Monday. And I want to extend to Sandy and you and everybody a very happy new year. And I'll tell you something, my friend, I just honestly look forward to Mondays. You are just such an asset to this program. Thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you, Zeb. And again, we have choices in the 2015 year, and those choices are to take action, to get up and stand up and speak up, because we are Americans. And I don't care if you're red, white, black, brown, or yellow American, it behooves you as an American citizen to change the course of history, join these organizations, and become a caller and a phone caller and a faxer of letters and so forth. Because if we don't, we will all become victims, no matter what our race, creed, or color in this country. So
all right.
I'm excited to work with you in 2015, my friend.
God bless you, Frosty Woldridge. Happy New Year! Thank you, Frosty.
Happy New Year to you, Zeb.
God bless you. Thank you.
My friend.
Super guy right there, Frosty Woolridge, Golden, Colorado. Oh, my goodness, did you hear about the after-Christmas sale going on at Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road, now through January 3rd, only these prices? Oh, a Samsung 75-inch smart LED TV. Oh, my goodness, just $22.99? Wow, that is a savings. And how about this? A Samsung 32-inch, just $199? Oh, I mean, gallop. Don't walk. Gallop right now into 1730 Kimberly Road, Twin Falls. Quality's Electronics, open 9 to 6 Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturdays. Huge after-Christmas sale. Caller, I'll be right with you. Don't go away. Want to remind everybody, too, about Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Oh, my, where the fun is sold. Oh, my. I'll bet you there's a lot of snowmobilers that are just going, thank you for the angel dandruff. They've got their brand new 2015 Yamaha snowmobiles. Wait a minute. You didn't get yours yet? You better stop over to Let's Ride and check them out today. All the clothing, all the accessories. Yeah, buddy. They've got everything for you. And all the ATVs. Oh, look at that showroom. It just is absolutely stunning. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Yep, where the fun is sold. Let's Ride. You stop over and see those good folks today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb. Hope you had a nice Christmas. But, you know, everything leads to the globalists wanting a one-world government. And in the process, they have to bring the United States down to third world status. And everything you and Frosty just talked about, that is what's bringing it down. And there's one thing else that's not even on the radar, not being mentioned, but is going to be devastating. We know how bad NAFTA was, at least to most segments, and we've lost over 1 million jobs, and I forget how many, 40,000 factories moved offshore to, Canada, Mexico, and so forth. And these Trans-Pacific Partnership and the one with the EU, there's two different trade agreements. They have very little to do with trade. Mm-hmm. They have a lot to do with economic and political union. They're basically creating regional government. And so people, you need to be aware of that. Get on your internet to jbs.org, thenewamerican.com, because this, you think just all these illegals coming in here to take your jobs, more and more factories are going to be moving to third world countries. And it's just hard for people to find good work of high quality pay, because between that and the visa programs that allow jillions of high-tech people to come into this country, it's very difficult for people with a college degree in a various situation, because these other countries will be able to bring in people and work cheaper. And they also, of course, the illegals, they'll take all the low-paid jobs, the entry-level jobs. So it's very discouraging for people. I've got, I
got to run, Adrian. I'm out of time. I got another guest waiting in the wings, and I appreciate your comments, and they're 100% the truth. Call me tomorrow morning, first hour. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But I've got a guest waiting, and I've got to get him on. All right, sir.
Trade agreements need to go.
God bless you, man. Thanks. Hey, don't forget Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. 459 Overland in Burley. My goodness sakes, they've got all the accessories. You mean you didn't treat yourself for Christmas? Well, you've still got time to get in there and maybe pick up some new clocks and mirrors and framed art. Or maybe you said to yourself, well, I got everybody else something for Christmas, but I need a brand new recliner. Well, they've got recliners, and they've got all the love seats, and they've got the tables and chairs, the dinette sets, the bedroom sets, everything for you. Stop in and see them today at 459 Overland in Burley. Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Right now, let's go to the phone lines, and we have with us a gentleman that I absolutely have the highest regard and respect for, Senator Dean Cameron. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Zeb?
It's good to have you on the program, Dean, and I appreciate you taking the time between Christmas and New Year's to come on the show and talk about various things. You've always been straight up and have been very honest about various situations. The Times News last week on Christmas Day, they came out with an editorial that said, all we want for Christmas. And some of the things on their want list I wanted you to talk about, because number one on their want list was, quote-unquote, courage in the legislature. Now, I've known you and Fred Wood and Scott Bedke and Bert Stevenson, and I know a lot of them in the Twin Falls area and around the state. I have not seen a lack of courage. Where does the Times News come off on saying that the legislature is not courageous in what they're doing for the state?
I'm not sure. I didn't read the article. I try to avoid that kind of propaganda when I can. Obviously the newspaper is wanting to stir up controversy and wanting to stir up angst, if you will, and so they're gonna particularly in the editorial page, they're gonna write things or put things that hopefully will generate in their mind will generate some consternation. The legislature, I think, has acted. We're not perfect, Zeb, and you know that. And there are things that we've done that even sometimes I'll look back on it and wish that we'd done it differently. But for the most part, we've acted, in my opinion, very courageous. It took courage to make the budget reductions that we did instead of raising taxes. It's taken courage to stand up against certain special interest groups as they've tried to promote their issues. And it's frankly, at times, it takes courage when we have to stand up against each other. Mm-hmm. There are times when I don't see eye to eye with the governor or vice versa, and he's my governor. I respect him. I have a great deal of admiration for him in many regards, and it's taken courage on his part to stand up and fight for traditional marriage, etc. And then at times it's difficult when I may not agree on a budget issue with him, but at the same time we try and do the best we can to do what we feel is right, what our constituents would have us do.
Well, I'll tell you right now that one of the contentions from that newspaper editorial was that you as a legislator and the legislators as a whole don't have the backbone to vote for a tax hike. How would you respond to that?
I would respond by saying, where do we need a tax hike? Mm-hmm. We look, in times past, where it was absolutely no other way to do it, I did vote for a 1 cent sales tax increase. I hated it. It took months, and that, if you recall, that session went into May. Before we finally acquiesced to doing that. So there was no other way around it. Since then, we haven't been put in that type of a situation, and I don't see that type of a situation going forward. Now, there's certainly a discussion about transportation and whether or not we are wisely and appropriately funding our transportation needs in the state. I have to tell you, we may not be, but until the Department of Transportation is operating completely within its means and doing things appropriately, we had an example here over in Rupert where they redid the highway between Rupert and Heyburn. Had trucks come in and stripe it after redoing it, and 2 weeks later come in and put gravel down and tar down again, and so then they had to restripe it a second time. Well, for most of us, that was an absolute waste of money. Mm-hmm. And so until we see some of that, it's going to be very difficult. Part of the other issues is many of the legislators who would benefit most, their areas would benefit most with an adjustment, are up in Boise and Nampa and North Idaho. And unless there's going to be a significant benefit to our area, I'm going to have a hard time voting for some sort of increase. It's not a matter of courage, frankly, it may be a matter of courage to say no until we get the appropriate spread between the rural areas and the the more urban areas. One of the more difficult parts is that many of us were willing to go that direction in the past, but it was the Boise legislators and the Nampa legislators who were unwilling, who really have, many times their freeway turns into a parking lot. And that is, I know, a business issue, and that needs to be addressed. But it can't be addressed on our backs if those legislators from that area aren't willing to address it.
Dean, there's another issue, and I'm not saying these are your words at all. These are my words. I'll tell you what, we'll take a call first, and then I'll get into this next subject. Caller, quickly, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was wondering if he's going to have enough courage to get rid of Common Core.
Dean, go ahead and respond if you would, please.
I have really great concerns with Common Core. There are some parts of it that are okay. We need appropriate standards, and we set in place legislation last year to allow the local school districts to determine whether or not they are utilizing it. Frankly, the most conservative committee in the Senate has been the Senate Education Committee, with people like Russ Fulcher and others who are very, very conservative, and they all looked at it and did not send forth a bill to reject it, and that's where it would have to come out of. So, to answer your question, if the Senate Education Committee sends forth a bill recommending one direction or another, I would most likely support it. I'm waiting to see what that Senate Education Committee comes forward with.
All right, Dean, let me go to this next subject, and I salute and I also support Governor Otter on his ban on gay marriage in the state of Idaho. I think gay marriage absolutely is one more step for a totally immoral society, and also the gay, lesbian, and transgender community wants to add the words. Now, there's a lot of people that were confused as to what they really wanted about the Add the Words campaign, and I wanted you as a state senator to come on and state what they want and why you're either for or against it.
Well, first of all, there's been a lot of misconception in the media, and I know that's probably not a surprise to anybody. Most of us in the legislature abhor any sort of discrimination. We don't think that there should be any discrimination, but frankly, we think that what goes on within the privacy of a person's own bedroom should remain within that privacy. We, however, most of us support traditional marriage between a man and a woman.
Yes.
We feel that that's the appropriate length, and so from our perspective, remember the voters voted overwhelmingly to put that in the state constitution, and we are surprised and disappointed and angered in many ways over the Supreme Court ruling. And so I don't see the legislature, at least under the body under the individuals that have been elected, I don't see the legislature changing that. And I realize that some people may feel differently and they're entitled to their opinion, but in my opinion, marriage, it belongs between a man and a woman, and that's where it should remain. As far as the Add the Words, they wanted to add sexual orientation, and there was another phrase, and I'm drawing a blank on it right now, to the discrimination clauses in our state code. Frankly, we think they're already protected.
Absolutely.
In that regard. But to add them may cause more harm than necessary. So that's the take I believe most of the legislature feels.
Absolutely. We have a caller with another question. Good morning, caller. Quickly, go ahead, please.
Good morning. And I would certainly agree that we do not need to add the words because, and also we definitely need to eliminate Common Core. The more I study about that, the worse it gets. And one of the things about transportation, when the state legislature added 10 extra tons of weight going down the roads, a lot of these road beds were not designed for that extra weight. And even though they supposedly put the extra tires down, I know cases where they don't. And so it's just beating up our roads in the last several years. I'd like the legislature to go back to the previous weight limits. It would eliminate a lot of our road problems. And then the other thing that I would like him to comment about is the Medicaid. I know there's a big push for Medicaid, but I think it'll bankrupt the state because I have an ER nurse next door. These people come in for hangnail and, cut fingers and things it's just ridiculous how they're wasting taxpayer money as it is.
All right, we'll have him respond on the air. Thank you very much. Dean, please go ahead.
Thanks. First, I don't think the legislature will change the weight limits. I think most feel, and I do agree that many of the roads were not suited for those increased weight limits. We may need to figure out ways that those roads are when they are rebuilt, that they're rebuilt to them. I don't think that the legislature will back off on the weight limits. There may need to be some sort of addressing on how that's paid for based on weight again. And I know that gets into a really touchy subject and part of lawsuits in the past, but there may be ways around that because I do agree with the caller that those weight limits are contributing to the deterioration of the roads. The dilemma is we need to be able to get our sugar beets to market, our potatoes to market, and we need to be able to get those. And frankly, there's some discussion that those weights. I don't know how to say it. I guess there's some debate about whether or not how much they contribute. I agree with the caller, but I don't see the legislature rolling that back.
Okay.
As it comes to Medicaid, there's been a push, as you know, through Obamacare to expand Medicaid. And there are people that fall underneath the threshold to qualify for the state exchange and to qualify for the subsidy. And there's some issues there that need to be resolved. I don't see the legislature expanding Medicaid at this time. There simply aren't the votes to do it, and there are some concerns with exactly what the caller said is how we can afford it in the long run. However, let me say this: right now, under our current system, the way our lines are in Medicaid and the federal government's lines are with the exchange don't mesh in two folds. One, we have people that don't qualify for the exchange and don't qualify for Medicaid, so they fall in the crack. Secondly, we have some situations where parents were purchasing coverage through their own private insurance, through an insurance company or whatever, and then they come on and apply through the state exchange or the federal exchange in some states' cases, but in our state, the state exchange. And they find out that their kids can't be on their insurance, that the kids have to go to Medicaid. And that's also, in my opinion, wrong. In some regards, our benefits on and this is tough politically to say, okay, talk about, you asked about courage. In some regards, our benefits on Medicaid for children are too rich and need to be backed off. But the federal government won't allow us to do that unless we're making adjustments on the other end and addressing those where there's a gap or a loophole. Mm-hmm. And so you may see a redesign, but I don't think that'll even happen this year. It's going to take a couple years to work through how we can do that without obligating ourselves to the future. And of course, that's a primary concern that I have is in not only balance the budget for this year, but making sure that we don't set ourselves up for a dilemma in the future.
Dean, we've only got about 5 minutes left in this segment, and I want to turn the tables a little bit and have you vocalize about what do you think are going to be the real divots in the road, if you will, at the legislative session for this year. Of the matters that we've talked about, what other issues are going to come up and really cause a lot of time consumption up there at the session?
Well, actually, the items that got brought up by the callers are the toughest issues. There's some more education reform issues that have to be addressed. There's a whole discussion about teachers' salaries and a new salary grid and a tiered licensure program that will be very controversial. But Medicaid, transportation, state budget is always difficult. Even though our revenues are good, revenues are coming in better than anticipated, although mostly that is in income tax, which is interesting. Sales tax is still lagging, and which says to me that people aren't spending quite at the level, and the sales tax is more of a more immediate telling of what the economy is doing, whereas income tax is more of a delayed result. So we certainly are seeing some improvements in the budget, but as you know, there are always more requests and needs and desires than there are money. So it will always be somewhat controversial. And the other issues that I mentioned.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. I've got just a little time left. Go ahead, caller, please.
Yes, sir. My son teaches school in Twin Falls. He's wondering what your position is on tier certification. He absolutely detests it. Anyway, I'll hang up and listen to your explanation.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your call. Dean, please.
So there's been a great deal of progress since probably your son's last visit on it. There was a 3-tiered licensure bill that was proposed by the State Board of Education. That is now, and it was tied to performance, which is, I think, what most teachers detest as being judged based on a kid's performance. And that has now been changed where it was removed from performance and it has been adjusted to only a 2-tiered. The first tier being those teachers who are in their first 5 years of teaching, and the second tier being all other teachers, and it's not based on performance. Now, and they've separated the licensure from pay, which was also a consternation amongst the teachers. So now the issue then becomes they are working on a new salary grid. Our current grid is based on years of service and education, and up to 13 years of service. And frankly, everybody agrees, teachers and everybody agrees that old system isn't working to keep and attract our brightest teachers and to keep our brightest teachers from leaving and going to Nevada and Wyoming, etc. So we're working really hard to come up with solutions on that end, but it will be separate from the tiered. So I think your son would be pleased with the adjustments. At least that's what we're hearing from teachers now, is that they're pleased with the adjustments. It's a much better proposal than what was initially talked about 3 months ago.
Dean, I've only got a couple of minutes left. Short answer on this, but as a state senator of Idaho, what are your concerns with the Obama administration in their final couple of years as to what they might try or do or try to pass that would have a severe negativity against the state of Idaho? Do you have any of those fears?
Oh, absolutely. Many of them I've heard you espouse on your program, but the approach that the current administration has taken, where they're issuing orders by edict, in other words, bypassing the legislative process, people have to understand when they do that, they're not just, it's not necessarily a personal fight, although I take it very personal, between the legislative branch and the executive branch. But what the executive branch is doing there is they're bypassing the will of the people. Those legislators, whether they're sent at the state level or sent at the federal level, They're there to carry out the will of the public. They're will to carry out the will of their citizens of their own individual state. And when the president issues an edict that goes around the legislative will, they have trampled on the people's will. Not only have they trampled on this Constitution, but they've trampled on the will of the people. And once that starts to happen, and I understand, they'll argue that past presidents have done this. Certainly, they have, and it was a mistake then, and it's a mistake now.
I want to just say this has been one of the nicest interviews we've had in a long time. Very direct, and I appreciate it. Senator Dean Cameron, thank you so much. And from our house to your office, Happy New Year, and thanks for all you do.
Same to you. Thanks for everything you do, and appreciate you keeping the citizens informed, and appreciate being on your program.
God bless you, Dean. Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy New Year. Let's see. We've got to do some catch-up. It's time for the weather right now, brought to you by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. These are wonderful people taking care of your minor emergencies with major care. They're located at 382 North Overland in Burley, and they will see you today. Had a ear infection, the flu, sprain, strain, or fracture, injury due to accident, they can take care of you, and they will at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. The number to call, 678-6996. As I said, minor emergency, major care at Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb of the Ranch. I'm going to make this real simple because it's about that time where usually 2 times a year we get this cold air coming down from Canada, and it gets kind of cold. Well, you're in it, and you're going to be getting quite a bit of it for at least the remainder of this week. And we're talking cold, okay? We're talking about single digits for the overnight low. Yeah, you got some snow coming towards the later portion of the week. But other than that, welcome to almost January and cold weather in the Magic Valley of South Central Idaho. So just put a sweater on, throw some gloves on, run your hot water through your pipes, and you'll get through this. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you've got.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Brought to you this hour by Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center at 382 North Overland in Burley. And they're open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 9, Sundays, 1 to 7. Minor emergency, major care. They will see you today. Riverview Urgent Care and Medical Center. By the way, I want to remind you again about that great big after Christmas sale that's going on at Quali's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. Open 9 to 6 Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturday. This huge after Christmas sale is going to end on January 3rd, just a couple of days. You better get in there and check it out today. I mean, you can save an extra 20% off TV bases and electric fireplaces. And how about this? Samsung Blu-ray home theater systems with wireless rear speakers, just $299. Wow, get into Quali's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. I haven't had a chance to say hello to Gina all morning. Good morning, Gina. How you doing?
I am doing well, just kind of busy.
I apologize. We've kind of ignored you this morning.
Oh, no need to apologize. I don't feel ignored.
Well, we are getting snow here. What's the situation over at the station?
It's lightly snowing sideways.
Lightly snowing sideways. Okay.
Yes.
Well, then you must be having a little bit of a breeze.
I would think so. It looks like it could possibly be an ice day. I do see some blue skies out there, but a little bit of snow right now.
That's great. You know, we managed, I just barely caught It's a Wonderful Life. We went to church on Christmas Eve, got home. I only missed about the first 30 minutes of the movie, but I managed to prevail and uphold my family tradition of It's a Wonderful Life with James Stewart. I love that movie.
That is a Christmas tradition. I think in many households, everybody loves to sit down and watch that movie over the Christmas holiday.
The only movie that I didn't get a chance to see over the holidays that I absolutely swear I'm going to catch it every year. Chevy Chase Christmas Vacation.
Oh, I love that one.
I missed it.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks, Gina. I'm glad you had a very Merry Christmas. And we want to remind everybody, too, about our friends at Cameron Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert, 436-4424. The number to call. Your life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. Dean and Todd, always dedicated and responsive to your needs. Please get a hold of them today, make an appointment, and start the new year 2015 off right by making sure you're protected. Give them a call, set up an appointment, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Now, we're going to be taking off for about 5 or 6 minutes, and coming up next hour, we're going to talk to Jack Euler. And I always look forward to Jack kind of giving us a recap as to what's going on with the Wolf situation and everything. He's going to have that recap coming up at 10:06. And then at 10:30 this morning, 10:32, right in that area, we're going to get Michael Rogers back on the phone, and we're going to talk to him about weather and why we got the snow we did, why we're expecting the cold weather the way we are, and he's going to give an explanation as to how they look at it and gauge it on computer modules and everything else. So that's coming up at 10:30 this morning. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Zeb at the Ranch. It's still the holidays, and Gina has that beautiful music. I love it. You know, I still want to say this. I hope you had a very Merry Christmas, and I hope you'll have a very Happy New Year. Phone's ringing. Everything's going off here in the studio. Good morning to everybody. We're brought to you by our number one sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, and also some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, locally owned and operated, serving you always at your disposal. Call, get on the route service, 734-6969. I want to remind you, too, that great, big, huge after-Christmas sale. Jack, you better go in and spend some of those millions you got. Now through January 3rd at Quality's Electronics, you can get a brand spanking new Samsung 50-inch smart TV for just $549. Are you kidding? You better get in there today. And don't forget, too, a Samsung Blu-ray home theater system with wireless rear speakers, just $299. All of these great buys right now at Quality's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. Hey, and by the way, our thanks go out to the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley, and they wished you a Merry Christmas, and now they wish you a very Happy New Year. Today, the special at the Chadwick Sports Grill is going to be chicken and bacon pitas with soup and salad. Going to be delicious, always is. Great specials, great menu items at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. You stop in and see them today. With us in the studio, Gina, my dear friend, and I honestly didn't think that he'd try to weather the storm, so to speak, and drive out here with the snow. Jack, how are the roads out there this morning?
They're fine.
Are
a little snow here and there, but
a little snow. Yeah, actually, the way you drive, your tires really don't hit the ground that much, do they?
I'm on the road every day.
I know
almost all day.
I know you are. God bless you, man. Did you have a good Christmas?
Had a great Christmas.
Good.
It was nice.
Okay, now how's that grandson back in D.C.?
Got to Skype with him on Christmas Day, and he's doing great.
Wonderful.
And he, there's 4 missionaries that live in the same apartment, and one of them is Elder Jones from Oakley.
Oh.
And so he's very good friends with Jones.
Has he had enough time to straighten out all the ills of Washington, D.C.?
You know, they don't get involved in that, but he is taking in all the historical things that he can on his P-Day.
Did you say historical or hysterical?
Historical.
Well, there's enough to go around, I'm sure. I want to get right into what I saw in the paper, and the reason I called Jack and wanted him to come in the program this morning. there was a story in the paper as of, I think it was yesterday. Federal judge, and I'm going to read this first part of the story. A federal judge on Friday threw out an Obama administration decision to remove gray wolves in the western Great Lakes region from the endangered species list, a decision that will ban further wolf hunting and trapping in 3 states. Now, those states are Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. I know all those states very well. I was born and raised in Wisconsin. I went to college in Minnesota. We went fishing in the summertime in Michigan. They have more than a good share of the wolves and more than a good share of the problem back there. And this judge, in my opinion, has just helped exacerbate the problem with the wolves. Am I right or wrong?
You're right. And you look to see where the judge was that made that decision. He calls it in here arbitrary and capricious. What about his decision? Isn't it arbitrary and capricious that a judge sitting in Washington, D.C. would make this kind of a determination? That's a political thing. That's all this is a political ploy.
One of the things that bothered me in the story is that they said that the head count per se for Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, around 3,700 head. Now, I can tell you of the farmers and the ranchers and the people that are sportsmen that I've talked to back in Minnesota and Wisconsin primarily. In Minnesota alone, it's been estimated by true head count that there's over 5,000 in the state of Minnesota all by itself.
The wolves back there are a lot of them, and there's been a lot of them for quite a while. The wolves in those 3 states, Minnesota and Wisconsin and Michigan, were not planted there. They came over the border. Canada. They came down from Canada over the border, and they were there when wolves were brought into Yellowstone and Idaho.
That's right.
So they got there by themselves, but they have had problems in those 3 states for years and years and years. And when I dealt with people in those states when we were dealing with the problems with the wolves. And, you know, go back to the numbers. I know there is 4,000 to 5,000 in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and maybe there's a few less in Michigan because of the Great Lakes.
That upper peninsula part by Escanaba, Gladstone, in that area of Michigan, the UP, I can attest to the fact, and I'll stick my neck out, there could be as many or more up in that upper peninsula. But my question is this, and the reason I wanted you to come on the program, if they're that present in those 3 states with huge numbers into the thousands and thousands, what was the purpose of putting them back on the endangered species list?
Well, it goes back to what is the purpose of this whole thing? What is the purpose of putting them on a list as endangered? They were never endangered in North America. When Dr. Graves, who wrote in this book, part of this book, The Real Wolf, and it was given to me last spring, he told me that at the time of the listing in the United States, and he's from British Columbia, that at the time of this listing, there was 40,000 wolves in North America, and that included the lower 48 states, Canada, and Alaska. And he says there was no purpose in listing them. And Dr. Graves has 40 years experience in predator-prey relationships. The guy knows what he's talking about.
Let me just read a quote here. I believe this is from the Department of Fish and Wildlife Service spokesman Gavin Shire. Quote, "The science clearly shows that wolves are recovered in the Great Lakes region, and we believe the Great Lakes states have clearly demonstrated their ability to effectively manage their wolf populations. This is a significant step backwards." What does he mean, step backwards, by that?
Well, Dan Ash, who is over U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in the Obama administration, is the one that suggested delisting in those states. And the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service delisted them. And it was carried out. Now, this is a step backwards because everything that happens seems to be challenged in court, in one of those friendly courts where they can get the decision that they want. Now, it's a step backwards because of our political system today is eating us up alive on the issues of the Endangered Species Act, whether it be wolves, whether it be sage-grouse, or what it is.
Let me just kind of interrupt you right there, Jack. So basically, there is no question that the wolves back in the Midwest, which is also a mirror to look at what's happening here in the state of Idaho in the Northwest, there's no question that the wolves are thriving, and there's literally thousands and thousands of wolves that have caused a lot of hardship for farmers and ranchers and sportsmen back in Wisconsin and Minnesota and Michigan. But for some reason, this judge goes ahead and puts them back on the endangered species list, and for no reason other than possibly just causing a lot of concern with sportsmen, hurting wildlife licenses for hunting. I mean, this is just another, I think, slap in the face for our freedoms.
It is, and like I told you, it is a political move, and I have often told environmental groups when I've been sitting in meetings with them, why don't you guys put money on the table to protect a species that you want listed instead of going to court and getting all these actions done, because they spend all their monies on attorneys and courts, and they will not spend a dime on the ground. And I had a meeting this morning before I came out here with our Fish and Game Commissioner, Mark Dorr, and he told me that he was in the meeting in Ketchum not long ago, and he told them the exact same thing that I just told you.
What, Jack, would stop, and I'm not sure how to phrase this question, but with your expertise, I know you'll have the answer. What would stop the environmental groups like this from coming to a judge here in the Northwest and saying, okay, now we put them back on the endangered species list in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan, even though they shouldn't have been. Why can't we do the same here in Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming? What's going to stop them?
You know, I have been... I've been wondering when it was going to happen here, but I tell you what we did a few years ago when we got them delisted in Montana and Idaho. We put a few lines in the CR, which is the budget bill, in Washington, D.C., and it states on one of those lines that the decision to delist the wolves in Montana and Idaho cannot be challenged in court.
Okay, now cannot be challenged in court.
Cannot be challenged in court. And we've got those words in there. It was approved by the House, it was approved by the Senate, and the President of the United States signed it. Is that going to stop a judge from taking action? I don't know. We don't have those words in anything else or any other agreements on delistings in this country. And I am surprised that we have not been, well, we've been challenged, but it was thrown back at them once. And it says you cannot challenge it. It says that right in the wording.
Jack, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but you said you are surprised that it hasn't been challenged. What do we here in the state of Idaho and Montana, our neighboring state, and also Wyoming, what do we have going for us, if anything, to hold these people off and continue with a management issue on the wolves through the Fish and Game?
These people live off of the issue. They don't care about the species. They care less about a species, whether it be the spotted owl, whether it be the salmon, whether it be the wolf, whether it be sage-grouse, or a snail or a fly. It doesn't matter. They could care less. They just want the issue out there to interrupt the things that go on in our daily lives in the United States. And it might be noted that Idaho is not an unusual state for the Endangered Species Act. There's things going on in states all over the country about the Endangered Species Act. And this is why we have been somewhat successful in some of our issues in Washington, D.C., because of the way the environmental groups have used the Endangered Species Act against so many people in the United States. And the more they continue to do that, the more backlash there's going to be about what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Is there a coalition of western states, even down to New Mexico and Texas, with their involvement with the wolves? Is there a coalition of power, possibly, and I'll underline that word, where states are saying, hey, we'll band together and we'll try to fight these movements? Is that happening?
Yes. We worked for almost 2 years in Washington, D.C., to get the wolf delisted officially in the lower 48 states, to get a declaration from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service that says the wolves are delisted in the lower 48 states. In 2012, we met with Dan Ash in Salt Lake City and hammered this bill out, and we come to an agreement with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And then it had to be printed, and then it went out for public comment, and then it was extended and extended and extended, and I just found out a few weeks before Christmas that probably that bill would not be approved under the Obama administration, even though the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service agreed to it. And we got everything we wanted except the red wolf in New Mexico and Arizona.
Okay, let me ask you this. And I want to get back to this situation in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Minnesota. Now that this is evidently going to go into effect with a full Recovery Endangered Species Act letterhead for the wolves, what does it do, Jack, to sportsmen's groups, the Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan Fish and Game departments? What does it do to their current status as far as they won't be able to touch them, will they?
No, they cannot hunt them anymore. There will not be a hunt.
And what about preservation of your own private property and your animals and everything else? Is this going to go back into a dictatorial type thing to where if you shoot one, you're going to be held on the carpet by the Endangered Species Act?
You know, there is several states that have been taking care of the issue without making a noise. Wyoming's been one of them, but they've been caught in listing and delisting and listing and delisting and all this stuff for several years. But the people in the state of Wyoming have been taking care of the issue. In other words, they've been taking care of the wolves that show up on their property.
Something you don't want to say, but I'll say it as the host. Shoot, shovel, and shut up.
Yes,
okay.
The 3 S's. And there's other states that people have been doing that.
Is that what it's going to come to, though?
Yes, it is. It's going to come to that. It is come to that. And the sage-grouse thing is the same thing. It's totally ridiculous, the things that are going on and the way they're going on.
Is this, in your opinion, Jack, with the Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Michigan statement by the judge, is this maybe a good thing because it turns some heads, whether it's yours here in Idaho or maybe somebody in Montana, etc., that they're cognizant that we better be really wary of what these judges will do?
I've known that for many, many, many years because I've been to Missoula, to federal court up there on the wolf issue many times and listened to that judge make his decisions and the things that have gone on.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
But really, this judge, with this edict, and you just kind of touched on it a minute ago, this is going to cause kind of an anarchy type situation to where whether it's someone endangered with their well-being or their livestock or their property or whatever, it's going to turn into kind of a under-the-table type deal to where we're going to have management one way or the other.
That's totally true. And it's like the commissioner told me this morning. That's what he told the people in Ketchum. Can you tell us anything that the Idaho... He says, we have a track record of being able to manage things in the state of Idaho. And they said, how? And he says, look at the bear and the cougar. He said, there's more today than there has been for a long, long time. Right. And he says, we have been managing that species forever, for 75 years. And he says, can you tell me what we've been doing any different in trying to manage the wolf? He says, you tell me. He says, they shut their mouth for a while and went on to a different subject.
So when we've only got a couple of minutes left here, but when you look at this situation in the Midwest, and then and 3 states involved, and 3 states involved right here in this area, Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, honestly, as you look into a crystal ball, what do you think is going to happen over the next year or 2 years while Obama's still in office?
Things are going to happen with the pen. I met with a guy about the White Clouds the other day, a couple of days before Christmas. And you're going to see some things go on there that we don't want to have happen, the Boulder White Clouds. You're going to see the pen declare this, the pen's going to declare that, and all these declarations that come by the pen have consequences, and it's just like the consequences that we have in the Frank Church Wilderness area. And these agreements that are made by the environmental groups and other people that come to these agreements, those guys do not ever hold to their side. They change the rules in the agreements as they go along, and that is evidenced in any of these areas that we have within the state of Idaho. I mean, you can see that.
One final thought, Jack. You know that I absolutely abhor these animal rights groups like the Humane Society of the United States. All they are is just pumping money into their pockets. Very little, if any, goes into actual benefit to wildlife or any dog or cat issues. They're so strong right now with their money. How are we going to fight these people?
We don't have the money to fight them. Right now, all we can do is come to our agreements and move forward with those agreements and hold up our side. I have no trust in any of them. I just handed you a paper a minute ago about the sage grouse and a letter to the governor on that. There's 3 environmental groups on that list of people that was with me behind that letter. And it's tough to sit down in a room with those guys and try to come to an agreement and move on.
You know, and here's the thing, real quick, and I've only got 2 minutes left here, Jack. Some of the verbiage is so silly and it's so absolutely ridiculous. And it said here, Fish and Wildlife Service spokesman Gavin Shire said the agency was disappointed and they would consider whether appealing. Disappointed? They ought to be damn mad about what happened, and they ought to say it the way it is. The sportsmen, the farmers, and the ranchers, and the agricultural people in those 3 states were injured by this.
Let me tell you what happened in Wisconsin, and this was before the delisting, that the environmental groups decided in Wisconsin they can hunt wolves with dogs like they can in Idaho on cougars and bears. And Wisconsin, they went to court, the environmental groups went to court and got a decision that if a hunter was hunting with dogs and killed a wolf, he had to have a member or a government agent there to watch him skin that wolf to see that there were no marks on the wolf from the dog that he was using to hunt it with.
Oh my.
And that was it. They got a judge to okay that, and that was going to go into effect this year, this winter, in Wisconsin with the wolf hunting there.
I ran out of time. It goes too fast when I've got my dear friend on the air talking about this issue. Jack Euler from Filer, just absolutely so important man on this issue of wolves and what the government's trying to do to us. Jack, Happy New Year. God bless you. And I know that there's still food out in the kitchen from the other day, so you better grab some before you leave.
On this issue, I would like to say one more thing.
Yes.
How proud I am to have been associated with Representative Stevenson from the Idaho legislature on this issue, because he and I were in Boise and worked on the 10J rule and the 10J changes, and I appreciate him and his help.
God bless you, Jack. Thank you. Jack Euler, and we appreciate it. And right now, without further ado, we're going to send it back over to our main studios. We'll be right back in 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb.
Oh, thank you very much. And right now, I also want to remind you about A Child's World and Ambulatory Surgery Center. Both those great businesses bringing you school days in Cassia County on Thursdays. And at The Child's World, don't forget a great big winter clearance. My goodness, they have hundreds and hundreds of cute outfits, toys, blankets, cribs, walkers, everything for your baby right now at A Child's World. And they're located at 1308 Overland in Burley. And also, don't forget the Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. And they all can save you money on the surgeries you need, whether it's hand surgeries, knee arthroscopic surgeries, colonoscopies, whatever. You call them at 677-8888. And like I said, they will save you money at the Ambulatory Surgery Center, along with The Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and it is snowing outside, and here is our fearless weatherman, Michael Rogers.
Well, how about that? Got that forecast right, didn't we?
Amen, buddy.
How are you?
I'm good. Michael, I had a lot of people ask me the other day, and quite frankly, it was during the snow after Christmas Eve and into Christmas Day. What happened? How come that big storm hit us when everybody had said, not just you, 0 chance of snow for Christmas?
Well, we went to this scenario when I was driving the truck about 3 years ago to be exact. And good morning, everybody. What happened over the weekend is nothing new, but you get into these patterns when you're forecasting weather that every now and then you kind of just don't think about the other situations that happens. And just to, I'm not going to take up for anybody if the forecast is wrong because, we signed up for this. This is our job. So 7 days out of 10, make that 9 days out of 10, the National Weather Service is actually correct. Well, when storms come through the Magic Valley, and when storms with a front come through any area, what they have a tendency to do is as they're moving basically from west to east is that once they hit on shore coming off in the ocean, they'll slow down and they will stall. And the Magic Valley is famous for this. And every time I would see a snowstorm come through there, I would go, okay, they've got a forecast that thing is going to blow right through. But I would always say, it's going to stall, it's going to stall. And when I got there over the weekend, I'm looking at the forecast, and I'm just like, it's going to stall. I know it. It's going to stall. It's going to stop, and it's just going to dump. And I called the Weather Service. I network with the Weather Service in Montana and also in Idaho. And no one said anything. It was just, it's just going to blow right on through. Well, this thing stalled and dumped some snow. And then here's the bad part. I get stuck, of all places, at the Oasis truck stop. So I'm sitting up here trying to dig myself out of snow. I'm thinking about everybody else. But when it comes to a weather situation, weather can't read. It does a lot of things on its own, and there are times that agencies like the National Weather Service, your paid guys like AccuWeather and the Weather Channel, they get it wrong. The Weather Channel, of all people, oh my goodness, they forecasted a big snowstorm back east. They closed the schools ahead of time. Nothing happened. But by the same token, they got nailed. It happens. It's an occupational hazard.
And Michael, let me ask you.
Really cannot read.
Let me ask you this question. We are, as you stated, since way early last fall in September, you made the statement, and I've heard it said by many, many other people on network news, etc., that the Northwest, primarily Idaho and this region in El Nino, with the wind currents that are basically going to be shifting some of the storms and moisture away from us. Now, with this last storm, maybe is there a change in the wind currents? Is there a change in the forecast? Is there a change in possibly the moisture that might hit the Northwest?
Well, in a way, yes, but then again, we're going to go back to normal. And roll with me on this one. I'll try not to sound as technical as I can because you're dealing with cold air. And that cold air is up in Canada. And it builds and it builds and it builds. And about 3 times a year, it will spill over down to the lower 48. This year, the cold air is coming down through Montana and Idaho all the way down to where I'm at, down to Las Vegas. Last year, it stayed in the middle of the country. In fact, for the last 2 years, it stayed in the middle section of the country. Well, now that cold air is coming down this way, so whatever storms that are coming through, when it matches up with that cold air, you're going to get dumped on. Yes, it is an El Nino year. December is the month where normally the majority of the storms will just slam straight on into Southern California and keep straight on across. But in the situation that we have here, you're dealing with cold air that is built up and is now spilling over from Canada, is coming to us. By the same token, in Alaska, they're getting what is known as a pineapple express. Right now it's 22 degrees, and everybody's just having themselves a good time up there because they're not dealing with below zero. Anchorage, for the first time in as many as 10 years, will go through an entire year without any below zero temperatures. Where's that cold air coming from? It's coming from Canada. Where's that cold air going to? We got it. And we're going to have it for about a week, and it's going to extend all the way down here in Las Vegas. Like everybody's gearing up now. It's going to be funny just kind of watching these folks down here when it gets cold. But in a way, it's unusual. But then again, we're going through a normal cycle. You got one more time where it'll happen again, right close to spring, and then that'll be about it. So to answer your question, the winds are shifting, the moisture is changing, but you need cold air to get what you're going to get, and right now that's what you have.
All right, now, let me ask you, and if I'm wrong on the terminology, correct me. We have El Nino conditions and El Nino, is that right?
You have the difference between El Nino and La Nina. It's real simple. El Nino deals with storms that are basically coming across the Pacific Ocean and slamming into Southern California, moving straight across in the southern tier states all the way over to the Gulf Coast states. La Nina is the exact opposite. Where you have storms coming straight through the Pacific Northwest. And when I was driving the truck 3 years ago, we had a real bad one. And you know, because it was amazing. I was calling the weather forecast and chaining up on Cabbage Hill in Pendleton, Oregon at the same time.
Right. Let me ask you this question, though, Michael. When you have a forecast that says a certain region of the country is going to be under La Nina conditions, have they ever, all of a sudden, in the middle of that situation, had it change and the wind currents completely changed and go to an El Nino situation?
Yeah, it happens pretty much between January and it happens between March. And it's amazing because California experienced a lot of rain, and it was a La Nina year. But California's rainy seasons between January and March, and they get quite a bit, and then all that water soaking up into the mountains will cause all those mudslides in the month of May. Yes, it does change. And I'm glad you brought that up, because what happens with weather, as I said at the top of our talk, we get so wrapped up into certain conditions happening the way the book says. But when I say weather can't read, I'm not making a joke. I'm telling you exactly that weather will do what it wants to do when it wants to do it. As a forecaster, especially from where I sit, because I'm not doing TV anymore, but I know weather, and I have a degree in meteorology. But when I discuss weather situations with the National Weather Service, and I do this once a month with 14 Weather Service stations, I play the devil's advocate. And they hate it every time I do it, because they come up with all this stuff, and I'm like, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? And they can't stand me when I do it. But this is a situation where I didn't say anything, but I'm sitting up there going, we got fronts, we got cold coming in here. That front's going to come through the Magic Valley. It's going to stall. It's just going to dump. And it does it all the time. And not only in the Magic Valley, it does it in the middle section of the country. It did it in Florida. There was an El Nino that took place, and it caused the Daytona 500 had to stop the race because they got so much rain between December, January, and February that it soaked into the ground and put a hole at the Daytona Motor Speedway. And everybody's trying to figure out why is there a hole in the speedway. I'm going like, it's El Nino. You got a lot of rain for the last 2 months. And the ground just soaked it up.
I have another question for you, and it's a question that I never even thought to ask you the last time you were on the program, but I'm going to ask you to give me a short answer here this morning. Cloud seeding, is it a good or a bad thing? Is it tampering with nature, or is it adjusting nature? What's your opinion on cloud seeding?
It's tampering with nature, plain and simple. Before we got here, nature was doing just fine, doing what it does. And you know how I hate to talk about global warming and all that other stuff. But basically, it lives, eats, and breathes trying to balance itself between cold air and warm air, period. That's all it is. So when you start tampering with stuff, you're asking for problems. And anybody who knows that, ask the people in New Orleans, Louisiana, when they try to readjust the Mississippi River.
All right, but now what about the cloud seeding? I mean, to me, what little bit I understand and have read about it, you're talking about where you might be doing and raising havoc for one area and creating possibly another volatile situation for another area. I mean, like you said, it is playing with nature. Is there a benefit to it?
I don't think so, Zeb. I really don't, in my personal opinion. They tried to readjust the Boise River because folks in the suburbs got tired of all the flooding that was coming through every year. And the minute you try and do something that is naturally done with nature, you're going to cause problems, period. Not just for other people, but for the environment itself. Now, I'm from Alaska. And the oil companies up in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, are famous for saying, we can poke a hole in the ground, get some oil, and put it back the way we found it. No, you can't. No, you can't. But that's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with clouds, when you're dealing with rain, when you're dealing with anything nature, and if you try to make it the way you want it to, all you're doing is asking for problems, and you're causing havoc with other people and other things. That's my opinion.
Now, if you were to look at a computer modular example of what you think starting off 2015 is going to be, are we in this area under the El Nino conditions? Are we going to be at a lack of moisture? What is your 30-day projection? And I'll let you go after this answer.
I think you won't have as much moisture as you would like to have, especially when you're dealing with snow melt in the Snake River in the El Nino year, and this is going to be a strong year from what the Weather Service and the predictors say. You're not going to have as much moisture coming through, but you will have some. And you will get a storm. January and February for the Magic Valley is when you get all your precipitation. You only get 9 inches a year. That's nothing. 9 inches is... If you try to equate that with some other people, 9 inches is flooding, and I've known people to get 8-9 inches of rain in a day. You're getting 9 inches in a year. So the moisture that you get is pretty light right now. I think it's going to be even lighter. I think it's just going to be dry. You will go through another cold snap again before you get the spring. Now, when you get the spring, that's a whole different genre, because you're going to start to get a lot of these storms that will come down from Alaska, and they're called upper lows, and they'll pop down in here, and they'll sit and won't do anything. It's just like the snow we just had. They'll get over our area, start raining, and it won't let up for about a week. And that was really famous when I first got there. In answer to your question, I don't think you're going to get the moisture that you would like to get to produce the water that you need to get through the spring and also for the summer.
Okay, one last thought here, Michael. I know that you have to keep up on all the new and innovative items of predicting and prognosticating the weather. Does that change a lot from year to year? Are there new materials? Are there new pieces of equipment? How much does that change?
It changes quite a bit if they would let the Weather Service do what they would like to do, although I'm going to give them credit for the equipment that they have now, because even though we still get our normal tornadoes and stuff, the one thing the Weather Service constantly looks at is the fact that new and innovative ways to get the information out to you. I mean, we get a lot of tornadoes, but over the last, I'll say 20 years, the information to get that out there, to let people know what's going to happen, is so much better than what it was before. It is amazing. Yes, you still have incidences with fatalities. Tornadoes will tear up a house, but by the same token, people know it's coming. And that's one thing the Weather Service strives to do, is get that information out. They know that they are not TV people. They know they have a problem communicating. They know that they're not personalities. But those guys, when they want to get that information out, they know how to get it out. And so far, it's been so much better over the last 25 years than it ever has been.
Michael Rogers Weather, right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Michael, from our house to your house, I'm glad you made it out to our open house the other day, and I'm glad you made it back home safely, and Happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Happy New Year, and thank you to not only you and Gina and KBAR, but, doing this for the last 6 years, didn't have to be that way. And I really thank you all for allowing me to do what I do that I've been doing for the last 30 years. I'm truly grateful. And I look forward to continue. But I am grateful that you allow me to do this. This has been my life for a long time, and I'm still going to do it.
All right.
Or whether I'm sitting in my car at a Starbucks in Las Vegas.
Okay, listen, man, I appreciate you. Happy New Year, Michael Rogers. Thanks. Talk to you tomorrow morning, my friend.
Bye now.
All right, take care. Interesting concept of how the weather is gathered as far as information is concerned, and the change. Why we got the snow that we did when nobody said we had a snowball's chance in the oven of having a white Christmas, but boy, did we ever. Let's have a weather forecast right now, and it's brought to you by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Don Scarrow and the rest of his crew. Oh, my goodness. They guarantee everything that they sell, and boy, the meats are fantastic. I still think if you give them a call, they've got those Christmas gift boxes. Great New Year's present to give somebody. Different prices, different types of meat. Absolutely delicious. They sell taste one bite at a time. 324-7657, Scarro's Meats in Jerome. And right now, here's Michael with his forecast.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. I'm going to make this real simple because it's about that time where usually 2 times a year we get this cold air coming down from Canada, and it gets kind of cold. Well, you're in it, and you're going to be getting quite a bit of it for at least the remainder of this week. And we're talking cold, okay? We're talking about single digits for the overnight low. Yeah, you got some snow coming towards the later portion of the week. But other than that, welcome to almost January and cold weather in the Magic Valley of South Central Idaho. So just put a sweater on, throw some gloves on, run your hot water through your pipes, and you'll get through this. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you've got.
All right, Michael, thank you again. And it's brought to you this hour by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Yes, sir, they sell taste one bite at a time. It is good. Hey, by the way, too, you've been hearing me all morning talk about, I'm going to sneeze in a minute. I know I am, and it's one of those things where you can wrinkle your nose up and you can hold your breath, and then all of a sudden I'm going to... Anyway, I think I beat it. After Christmas sale going on at Quali's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls, open 9 to 6 Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturday. Now, these sale prices only last through January 3rd. Check it out. A Samsung 50-inch smart TV, just $549. Are you kidding? And listen to this, a Samsung 75-inch smart LED TV. Oh, I wished I would have got the 75-incher. It's $22.99. You better get in and check it out today at the big after Christmas sale at Quali's Electronics, 1730 Kimberly Road in Twin Falls. Oh my goodness, you check on these sale prices, only good till January 3rd. Wow. Got time for some calls. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I want to check with Gina on something. Gina, did they find that Air Asia plane yet? Have they had any indication as to what happened to it? Have you heard?
I have not heard a word, but I will do some quick searching.
Another plane, you know the situation, I'm sure. Yeah. It took off from the airport, and it all of a sudden just disappeared. The pilot had radioed the tower and asked for a slight route change as they were climbing, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. Doesn't it seem, I hate to use the word weird, but really mysterious that 2 planes in the same area would disappear like they have?
Yeah, with no trace whatsoever.
Yeah.
And did they explain, just because I really haven't kept up on the story, did they explain why he requested the route change? Was it a weather issue?
Yeah, there was a little weather in the area and a little bit of a storm, but like most of the experts with the NTSB and other people that are in the aviation business, they said it was nothing big. He requested a route change to kind of basically get around the storm as he was climbing, but then they lost all contact and they don't know where he is. Now, the interesting thing is, they said that where the plane may have gone down was in the Java Sea. And I understand that is a very shallow piece of water.
Really? So
yeah.
If they did crash, then you would think that they would be able to see the wreckage.
Yeah, well, either that or there'd be some indication. But now the other plane, the Air Malaysia plane, went down, and still to this day, unless you know something I don't, I've never heard or read a story as to where any of those people are, or any of the wreckage or whatever.
Yeah, that story has pretty much kind of died off, and I do know, because I've just been, kind of following it here and there, that they are still intermittently looking for traces of that plane, but the massive search has been pretty much called off.
How do you lose? Let me ask you, you've been in journalism a long time, and you've been a television and news reporter. Think about this, though. How, in this day and age, to where you can track literally a cow going across the United States, or we can follow, how do you lose an airliner?
I don't know how you can lose an airliner, especially with today's technology. Now, I do know that the radar system that they use, it does not cover all areas.
Yeah.
So there is kind of some black spaces or dead spaces, as it is, when you're using radar. But these planes have digital signaling devices. They've got so many different ways that they can track these airliners. There should be no reason, especially in today's technology,
absolutely,
where a plane would just disappear like this. 2 of them.
Kind of a spooky story. Listen, by the way, I just want to say thank you for an excellent job this morning. Good to be back with you on the air. Thank you.
Oh, and hey, one more question.
Yeah.
Did she like it?
Loved it.
Yes!
Thank you. You did good, kid.
No, awesome, cool.
Okay, thanks. Gina was my shopping channel guide. Anyway, don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh my, all 7 locations serving you with the best in traction tires. And looking outside, it's good to have them. If you haven't, you better get in there. They've got all the tire chains, the snow chains. They've got everything for your safe wintertime driving. Yep, at all 7 locations, including, of course, the best in batteries, the best in brake service, front-end alignment, shocks, and struts. I'm telling you, you better get in there for winter driving at the best place to go. All 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers with Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Got to get out of here. Wrap it up for today and say we'll be back in the saddle tomorrow morning at 8:06. Zebeth Ranch. God bless you and your family, and Happy New Year. See you tomorrow morning.